the reason was someone had named Scully had joined with him, and both of the both of them uh, both of them um, were really their votes were really opposite. So Jobs resigned from Apple board,
Okay,
and
okay.
he joined next.
All right. Thank you so much. All right, guys. So we've got some versions. So yes, it was correct that uh, the Apple company, they hired another person from another company, and this person, he came in, and Steve Jobs' vision for the company and the other new person who was hired, his vision for the company did not match, which was really very obvious. His name was John Skilly. So he was hired from another company, and dono ka, yes, yes, very correct. I see a lot of people writing some correct answers, right? Abhiraj. He was from PepsiCo. Pepsi का CEO थे वो, and he was hired, and then दोनों का जमरा नहीं था vision, and that's why they parted ways. And also there's some information saying that he was also responsible for Apple's bankruptcy. Apple was on the verge of bankruptcy and stuff like that. But anyway, let's continue from where we had stopped. I want everyone to uh, right. I want everyone to stop writing on the chats now, and we'll start. So he says my second story is about love and loss. I found what I loved to do early in my life was that is Steve Wozniak, which is the co-founder of Apple, and I started Apple when I was 20. So at a very early age, he found what he loved. In 10 years, Apple had grown from just the two of us in a garage into a $2 billion company. So within 10 years, the company actually bloomed, and it expanded, and it became a huge company. It was $1 billion company. And then he says, I got fired. We already know the meaning of the word fired. Okay, got fired is he lost the job. I already told the reason why he lost the job. He says it was devastating. Of course, it has to be devastating because you start your company, and after you start your company, you work really hard to make it successful. And 10 years of hard work. इसके अलावा तुमने लाइफ में और कुछ भी नहीं किया. Uh, I can see some people messaging. They want me to speak a little louder, but honestly, the speaker is just right in front of my mouth, and I cannot speak louder than this. So I'm really sorry. So of course, you've done nothing more in your life other than giving all your life and dedicating all your life to this one company. You start from zero, and you make it a $2 billion company, and then you're fired. It will actually destroy anybody. Okay, इंसान ये सोचने पड़ जाएगा कि यार मैं करूँ क्या, मेरे को इसके अलावा तो कुछ और आता नहीं है. But then he says something slowly began to dawn on me. I want all of us to write the meaning for this phrase. Began to dawn on me is to began to become clear, or he began to realize something. उसको कुछ तो क्लैरिटी मिलने लगी और उसको कुछ तो रियलाइज होने लगा. Let us see what was it. He says, I still loved what I did, and so I decided to start over. So he says, so then when I was home, I had no work, I was unemployed. I started thinking once again about, if I actually loved what I did, what did he love doing? He loved to, be with computers. He loved to create computers. He loved to be, in the software industry, and he loved all of that. So he first questioned himself, do I still love what I do? The answer was yes. And when the answer was yes, he decided, I will start over. Of course, घर पे बैठ के तो कुछ होने वाला है नहीं. You have to start doing something in order to make things happen. All right. Just a second, guys. Yeah. The heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again. So here, what heaviness is he talking about? The heaviness of being successful is, something that not everyone can handle. Okay, for example, Sachin Tendulkar, he became such a successful person and a sportsman in India at such an early age, but fortunately, he was able to handle it, and that's why he continued to be successful. And whenever you are successful and you're trying to do something new, there will be a lot of pressure on you. So another example that I can give is, right now Virat Kohli is the world's best batsman. So when Virat Kohli steps onto the field, what do you think? Is he nervous, or the person who's just new into the team, Shreyas Iyer, will he be nervous? He will raise your hands and tell me your answer. No, forget raising your hands. Write your answer in the chat box. Tell me, who will be more nervous? Who will face more pressure? Or who will have more pressure? Virat Kohli, who is a successful batsman already, or Shreyas Iyer, who's just trying to come and make a place for himself in the team? Some people say the new guy. Some people say Virat Kohli. All right. Some people say both. Okay. In my opinion, if I have to tell you, I think Virat Kohli, both of them will have pressure because playing for India is always pressure. But Virat Kohli will be under more pressure because he has set up a standard for himself. He has set up a stand for himself and people expect a lot from him. उसको मालूम है कि अगर उसने सेंचुरी नहीं मारा तो इंडिया का गेम हारने का चांसेस ज्यादा है. एंड श्रेयस अय्यर अभी नया है, ठीक है, उसको ऊपर ऑफ कोर्स प्रेशर तो रहता है बिकॉज यू हैव टू सेव योर प्लेस, यू हैव टू सीमेंट योर प्लेस, राइट? But yes, I get Aldrin's message over here, which is really right. He says Virat will be under pressure because if he does something wrong, then his reputation will be at stake, right? And Shreyas Iyer नया है, उसके पास ज्यादा खोने के लिए नहीं है. So now he says the heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again. Now, because he was a failure, अभी तुम एक बात बताओ. When Steve Jobs must have been fired, all the newspapers must have spoken about him. Now he's a failure. Okay, ये failure है. Now if he starts something and he fails again, do you think any newspaper would want to highlight this because he's already a failure? उससे भी और क्या expect करने का? So he said, I was feeling light again. It freed me to enter one of the most creative periods of my life. During the next 5 years, I started a company, Next. Okay. So in the next 5 years, he restarted everything and he started a company जिसका नाम था Next. Okay. And then he started another company called Pixar and fell in love with an amazing woman who would become my wife. Pixar is now the world's most successful animation studio. Apple bought Next. I returned to Apple, and the technology we developed at Next is at the heart of Apple's current renaissance. And Lauren and I have a wonderful family together. तो अब ये क्या है बताता हूँ मैं आपको. Next was a company which was a creative company जो softwares develop करने में अपना contribution करती थी. And Pixar was a company that dealt with animation. Okay. Can anyone tell me which was the first animation movie directed by Pixar, created by Pixar? Write it in the chat. Let me see, does anyone know this? Yes. The first correct answer comes from Dev, from Devidyal. It was Toy Story. Yes, it was Toy Story. And today, Pixar is one of the biggest animation studio in the world. Now, suddenly he became really famous once again. वापस से बहुत successful हो गया. And a time came when Apple bought Next. Now, Apple was already a big company. Next was a newcomer. I want to know from you, okay? You will raise your hands to answer. I want to know from you, why do you think did Apple buy Next? क्योंकि Apple ने ही Steve Jobs को बाहर निकाला था, अब Steve Jobs की कंपनी खरीदना क्यों चाहते थे? So put your hands up. I see Aryan Dubey from Takshila putting his hands up first. So I will ask him. Aryan, I've unmuted you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell me why do you think did
Yeah,
they
sir.
buy Next? Yeah.
Yeah, sir, because Apple was already a developed company and Next was still developing, and Apple doesn't wanted to grow another company more than itself, so he bought the Next.
Perfect. Good answer. All right. So as Aryan rightly said, market में कभी भी ऐसा होता है guys that if there is one really successful company and they feel that the other company is trying to be as good as they are, they try to acquire the company or merge with the company and or maybe just buy the company. I want you people to give me one example of the same in the chat. कोई और ऐसा आपने बहुत फेमस एग्जांपल सुना जहाँ पर एक फेमस कंपनी ने दूसरे फेमस कंपनी को खरीद लिया हो? Yes, Amok from DN Nagar comes with the first right answer. So Facebook, अगर आपको पता रहेगा, Mark Zuckerberg he bought WhatsApp for around 18 million US dollars because उसको लग रहा था कि Facebook के जैसा WhatsApp भी is a social networking site and वो धीरे धीरे उसको take over कर सकता है, and that's why the merger happened. Then Tata bought Jaguar uh, and Microsoft bought Mojang. Nice. All right. So to reduce competition, Apple bought Next, and now he says I returned to Apple, and the technology we developed at Next is at the heart of Apple's current renaissance. Guys, renaissance is a French word. उसको English में हम pronounce करते हैं as renaissance, but in French it's renaissance. It means revival or rebirth. If you remember, Apple was on the verge of bankruptcy. Apple डूबने के इस पे था because the mastermind wasn't there, and the company had suffered a lot financially. And then when Apple bought Next, Steve Jobs was back, and all the software and technology that they developed at Next was the main reason why Apple became the Apple that it is today. The iPhone X and all of that you use is the reason for its revival was Next. That was Steve Jobs' new company. You know, comeback is very important. And Lauren and I have a wonderful family together. So of course we all know who Lauren is. Lauren is his wife. Okay. So love में दो चीजें आ गई. One, he knew what he loved, and also he fell in love with a woman who went on to be his wife and the mother of his kids. This next line, I love this line. Okay, this line says, sometimes life hits you in the head with a brick. Don't lose faith. The only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking. Don't settle. This entire phrase hits you in the head with a brick, which means gives a great shock suddenly. So whenever life gives you a great shock suddenly, do not lose faith. Have faith. Then he says, the only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking for it, but don't settle. So many times in life, when we see a lot of our friends have found what they love at a very early age, and then we are amongst those who have reached maybe 30 or maybe 35 and still haven't found what we love the most. You don't have to compromise and settle for something that you don't love. Of course, you have to try and work and try and make ends meet. But you don't have to give up. Yes, I get one message here from Dhanush from JB Nagar. He writes MSD story, right? So you watch the movie wherein he is trying to settle for that government job, but he loves cricket. And then he leaves all of that and comes back. And when his father asks him, why have you come back? He gives one simple answer. He says, I'm not able to focus on both. I'll either do the government job or do cricket. And I feel I need just 1 year to prove myself. And if I don't do anything in that 1 year, then I will go back to the government job. So yes, you don't have to settle down for what you don't love. So guys, that was the second story. So if you remember, I want you to write it down in the chat and tell me what was his first story about. Come on. Okay, I get another example from Tanmay from DN Nagar, the KFC owner story. He started his company KFC when he crossed the age of 60, right? Good. Okay. Guys, I want you to tell me what was his first story about. If you remember, his first story was about connecting the dots. The right answer comes from Yash from Vikroli. It was about connecting the dots. And the second story was about, please write in the chat, what was the second story about? Yes, the second story was about it from Anand Patel. He's the first one to answer. It was about love and loss. All right, now let us see the third story. So he says, my third story is about death, मौत, जिससे हम सब डरते हैं. About a year ago, I was diagnosed with cancer. We all know, guys, what do you mean by the word diagnose? Diagnose is to identify the nature of the problem by examining the symptoms. So do you know what tests are done to identify or diagnose cancer? Please put it in the chat. Let me see if you people know about this. Chemotherapy नहीं होता श्रेय. Chemotherapy is the solution to it. वो treatment है. MRI is one. Okay, blood test, CT scan. Okay, yes. Endoscopy is also another way, right? CT scan and stuff like that. Okay. So he says about a year ago, this story, he passed away in the year 2011. Okay, so you know that his story was just before that, 3 years before that, 2008, 2009 the story. He says my third story is about that. A year ago, I was diagnosed with cancer. My doctor advised me to go home and get my affairs in order. What do you mean by to get my affairs in order? Please put it in the chat. Let me see who gives the correct answer. Yes, biopsy is another way of doing it. Right. Vruksh from DN Nagar has given the right answer. Guys, my question is, to get my affairs in order का मतलब क्या है? Yes, Atharva Sawan from Ghatkopar says this. It's to prepare for death. Okay, to prepare for death. Right, to settle everything. So, guys, if if you know that you have less time left, so the first thing you do is you go and settle all your property issues, right? You go, yeah, you go and you uh, prepare a will for your family. When you mention that after you're gone, किस इंसान को क्या मिलेगा, so that there's no problem. Your family doesn't have to go through hell once you are no more because you did not get everything in order. So his doctor told him, घर पे जाओ, अपना जो भी सब तुम्हारा जो भी formalities हो पूरी कर लो, which is a doctor's code for prepare to die. That the doctor अगर आपको बोलता है घर पे जाके सब सही कर लो, it's very clear that you don't have much time left. All right. I lived with that diagnosis all day. Later that evening, I had a biopsy. It turned out to be a very rare form of pancreatic cancer that is curable with surgery. I had the surgery and I am fine now. So guys, in cancer also there are two types. So one is the malignant, another is the non-malignant. जो नॉन malignant होता है वो ऐसा होता है जो आपके बॉडी के खाली एक ही पार्ट में रहता है. सो वो कैंसर जो होता है उसको आप वो बॉडी पार्ट को निकाल कर या तो वो ट्यूमर को निकाल कर you can cure the person of cancer. Another is the one where the tumor is spread all over the body. वो बहुत अलग अलग जगह पे है. In such a case, you cannot operate or do a surgery. In such a case, you can only go for chemotherapy and radiations. Luckily, the cancer that he was diagnosed with was a rare form which could be cured with surgery, and that's how he says, "I had the surgery and I am fine now." But guys, I'll just tell you something which is not mentioned in the lesson. He died of cancer again. Okay, he died of cancer again because, yes, you're right, Aldrin. He died of cancer again because cancer can relapse. वो relapse हो सकता है अगर आप ध्यान नहीं दोगे, थोड़ा भी आपसे अगर थोड़ा ignorance हो गया आपकी तरफ से, तो it can relapse and you might have to get the treatment done again. So he died of pancreatic cancer once again. All right. He said this was the closest I've been to facing death, and I hope it's the closest I get for a few more decades. But unfortunately, we all know that didn't happen. Swarda from JP Nagar, I am speaking a little louder as I already said. मेरे मुंह के पास ही है मेरा स्पीकर. अमोघ, biopsy का meaning बेटा, biopsy is a little test where they put some camera inside your body जहाँ पर कैंसर है वहाँ डालते हैं और वहाँ से अंदर से कुछ ट्यूमर्स को बाहर निकालते हैं to check कि आपको वो कैंसर है या नहीं है. Similar to endoscopy as well. Sanika, there is cure for cancer. Chemotherapy and radiations are the cures, but there's no guarantee that it won't relapse. वापस से आ सकता है. पूर्वा, डॉगमा का मतलब होता है narrow mindedness. Narrow mindedness. Dogma means narrow belief. All right, guys, let's continue. And then he says, just a moment. Having lived through it, I can now say this to you. Your time is limited, so don't waste it in living someone else's life. Right. So see, it's only the person who has faced death who knows the value of life because, uh, you know, because all of a sudden you realize that you have less time, and that's when you realize that you were doing all the stupid things in life and you had ignored all the things that you should have done in life. And that's when you realize कि life में important क्या है, life में ज़रूरी क्या है. And that's when you realize that your time is limited. ज़्यादा वक्त नहीं होता हमारे पास. So Do not waste it living someone else's life. Live your own life. Tharva Shinde is asking me how cancer is defined. Cancer is defined what? Cancer is a unwanted growth of cells in a body. Why do poor people become great? Why not a son of a rich person? It's a very good question, Anand. Poor people become great because they have no other choice. They have to work hard to survive, and that's what makes the hunger. वो जो रहता है ना कि आज रात को खाना मिलेगा कि नहीं मिलेगा. That thing makes them uh, work really hard. Whereas the rich people are already well fed, उनको इतनी भूख नहीं होती. So that's why the difference. All right, let's continue. Don't be trapped by dogma. The word dogma is belief or a set of belief held by a group or an organization which others are expected to accept without argument. जिसको in short में हम बोल सकते हैं narrow mindedness, जिसको हम बोलते हैं छोटी सोच. Preet Parmar is asking me how can a doctor give a particular time that you can survive? Okay, see, now that is a question which honestly I don't have an answer for because I am not a doctor. बट ऑफ कोर्स एक एक्सपीरियंस होता है ये हर इंसान को ना. डॉक्टर्स को भी एक्सपीरियंस होता है. उन्होंने देखा रहता है कि अगर एक पेशेंट है जिसको ये प्रॉब्लम है, इसके पहले उनके पास ऐसा कोई पेशेंट आया होगा तो वो इंसान कितना सर्वाइव किया होगा. सो ऑन एंड दे डोंट टेल यू एग्जैक्टली दैट यू विल डाई एट ऑन दिस पर्टिकुलर डेट. दे जस्ट गिव एन अप्रॉक्सीमेट आइडिया. फॉर एग्जांपल योर टीचर्स नो with the questions that you ask that how good are you in studies, are you preparing or not, how well prepared are you, it's only because of their experience, simple as that. अब वो गलत भी हो सकता है, सही भी हो सकता है. Dogma and dogmatism are the same, Ria. Dogma and dogmatism are the same. Right, Asim. Asim says rich kids do not know the value of anything, but poor kids know the value. It's not कि हर rich kid ऐसा नहीं होता है. But it's important for the rich parents also to make the children realize कि जो बनाना है आपने बनाना है. You will not get anything and everything ready on the plate. All right, let's go on. Don't be trapped by dogma. दुनिया जो बिलीव करती है उसमें बिलीव मत करो. अगर दुनिया बोलती है कि यार ये कोई नहीं कर पाया है तो इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि आप भी नहीं कर सकते उस चीज को. Alright, you don't have to believe in what the world believes in, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. For example, if you decided I want to go into the army and someone else says, what when you go to the army ऐसा होता है वैसा होता है ये नहीं करने का. So it is that person's thinking, it is that person's experience. Doesn't mean कि आपका भी experience वही होगा. Someone tells you do not do a certain thing because I have had difficulties. That doesn't make sense. The person had difficulties because that person was not meant to do it. You might have a different experience. You might have a different choice, and you have different, credentials in you. He says, don't let the noise of others' opinion drown out your own inner voice. Drown out का meaning is on the screen, to be louder than another sound. So दूसरे का आवाज या दूसरे का ओपिनियन को अपने दिल की आवाज से ज्यादा जोर से या लाउड होने नहीं देने का. You have to listen to what your heart says, what your inner voice says. That's what he says. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. Guys, the word intuition means your inner voice. Intuition means your inner voice, अंदर की आवाज, your gut feel. He says follow it. They somehow already know where you truly want to be, what you truly want to become. He says your heart and your intuition already knows what you really want to be. तुमको जो सच में लाइफ में करना है, वो तुम्हारे दिल को already पता होता है. When I was young, he says, there was an amazing publication called the Whole Earth Catalog. So there was a magazine that he used to read. It was called the Whole Earth Catalog. In the final issue, that is in the last publication, the last issue of the magazine, on the back cover, they put a photograph of an early morning country road. Early morning country road is an early morning village road. उसका back of the back cover में photo डाला गया था. Beneath it were the words, stay hungry, stay foolish. Okay. The meaning of stay hungry over here मतलब ये नहीं कि भूखे रहो हमेशा. It means always keep wanting something more and something new. Always work hard to do something more and something new. Do not be satisfied. And stay foolish. Stay foolish means always keep an open mind. Never think that you know everything. Allow yourself to commit mistakes and errors. That's what it means. It was their farewell message as they signed off. I have always wished that for myself. And now, as you graduate to begin anew, that is to have a new beginning, I wish that for you. Stay hungry, stay foolish. Catalog is just a magazine kind of a thing which has a lot of photographs. The meaning of the word intuition is your inner voice, Joshua. It's inner voice. Alright, Vaibhav says, I think to be poor is better than to be rich, and becoming poor to rich is a great achievement you can achieve in your life. Alright, Vaibhav. Okay, guys, I'll just give you your homework for the day. Just a moment.